Hello everyone, it is Jim Warrior, and I wanted to roll up several YouTube pagan challenges into one, and talk about them because essentially they're all the same. Um, the last few challenges and the current challenge are all really about energy. It's about chakras, power places, the etheric field, auras, etc., etc. And that's really all just energy. That just boils down to one topic with a lot of different branching off points. And so, I wanted to discuss them all at once. Um, Energy, just that word. I just love that word. I love energy. It makes me feel good when I say it. The word energy has a lot of energy for me. I love it. Everything in our universe revolves around energy. Everything. Um, I mean, really everything, because everything is energy. In a metaphysical sense and in a scientific sense, everything is energy, and we can explain everything with energy in energetic terms. Um, I keep saying, the elements are all energy. They're the four, basic foundations of like life, right? Aristotle's four elements: fire, earth, wind, and water, or etc. Other words you want to use. And he proposed along with a lot of other people that there was this fifth element, and I've talked about this before. And we all know the fifth element. It's one of the first things you learn when you get into magic in any form, whether it be pagan or not. You learn about the fifth element, and it has a ton of names: quintessence, essence, ether, which is my preferred term, akasha, chi, ki, prana, mana. It goes on and on and on and on and on. There's a bajillion. Every culture has come up with this idea, and you could even just call it spirit or soul. Um, and I think again that's what this challenge, what's what these last few challenges have been about, is about the fifth element. And for me, the fifth element itself, ether, akasha, whatever, is the soul of the universe. I think that fire, wind, and water and earth are extensions of the universe. It's kind of its limbs, its fingers, its phalanges. Like, it's the tools that it uses to create. But I feel like ether itself is the soul of the universe. It's its spirit, and so that's why we're all connected, because we all contain a piece of that ether. Um, and so I think one of the questions was like, do you believe in the etheric field or auras? Um, for me, an etheric field and an aura is a synonym. That's the same thing. So for me, auras are, I mean, well, we can explain them scientifically by saying that they're electromagnetic fields of energy that your body kind of vibrates off. And not just your body, but everything. And it's because we're made up of these swarming molecules and they're making vibrations of energy. Um, and the waves get slow or fast depending on your emotional frequency. Like when you're angry, they get very sharp and fast. And when you're very relaxed, or chill, or maybe even sad, they're like very slow and don't peak very much. Um, and I think that the energy of other objects and people around us, being bombarded by vibrations all the time, and we ourselves are giving off a vibration, and so of course that's one thing that keeps us from fusing together. Like, I'm not a part of this chair right now because our vibrations are at different speeds. And then we get into the whole like theory of time travel and intangibility, but we won't go there. We're not trying to make this a video about quantum physics, although I would love to talk about that sometime. But yeah, so everything's giving off vibrations to us, and we're giving off vibrations to it, and we respond in kind. So that's why sometimes with like a person, you just don't match up. It's because your vibrational frequencies are completely different. And if one of you can come down or come up to the other's level, then you'll probably get along very fine, and you'll start to have that moment of connection or that spark. Um, but if you can't meet in the middle or come or up or down to the other's level, then you're just gonna clash. It's the same with people and places for me. There are some places you go to, and they may be perfectly wonderful, beautiful places that have a lot of great memories for people, but for some reason you just don't mesh with it. It's because your vibrational frequency or your aura, your etheric field, isn't vibrating at the same frequency. Um, and then I think we get into the idea of like ley lines, in one of the past challenges as well. There are other synonyms for ley lines. If you haven't heard the term ley line, you've probably heard dragon line or fey line, fairy line, pixie line. I've heard a lot of different terms. And those are just kind of streams of ether. Again, this fifth element. Okay, we're talking about the fifth element, ether. That's just streams of ether all over Gaia or Gaia. Uh, if ether is the soul of the universe, then it is also a part of Gaia's soul too, right? It makes up her spirit. So ley lines are kind of just that energy flowing all around her. They're kind of the roads that the energy is taking. And we have them as well, but we'll get to that in a minute. Um, so that's all that ley lines are to me. Some people try to map them out. You can Google it and you'll find all sorts of different people's maps of how the energy flows over the earth. My favorite one is to just say to look at a globe and all of the longitude and latitude lines, those are ley lines. That's just lines of energy. I like that. I go with that. And then the points where the latitude and longitude lines with the ley lines cross is called a vortex. And a vortex is just a cross stream of ley lines. And to me, those vortices are the chakras of Gaia. There are Earth chakras where the energy lines are crossing. You get these swirling portals, these swirling vortexes of energy, and that's a chakra to me. So whenever someone says, "Oh, let's talk about power spots and places and vortexes and blah blah blah," I'm like, "Oh, the chakras of the earth, of Gaia." Okay. And then the ley line again, just being like the flow of energy, where like what it does in the meantime before it gets to a chakra. So, and I do believe in all of this, and so chakras or chakras, if we're gonna say it correctly, I guess chakras, um, are the cross sections of your own ley lines. We have our own ley lines. Everything in this world is macrocosmic and microcosmic. We are our own self-contained universes. There are so many parallels between what's going on inside of us and what's going on outside of here. So many parallels. And so we have our own ley lines. And you can map them out yourself. I don't map them out. I don't worry about this stuff. I just accept it. But let's just take our arm. Let's say that there's energy flowing through here right now. That's a ley line. Let's just call that a ley line, okay? Now, all these ley lines, I have them everywhere, have stopping points, right? And we're going to go with the Hindu idea of chakras, which is what we all know. And it's, the lineup of chakras right here. So all these ley lines are coming together, and when they cross, they make chakras. So our chakras are just crossings of our own ley lines, our own personal inner ley lines to me. And, people assign like all of these attributes to chakras. Emotions and colors and herbs and metals and gemstones. They get really crazy with it. And that's perfectly fine if you want to get into that. I don't. I don't worry about what color they look like. A lot of the times the colors don't match what I've read in books. In my visualization. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they change. The colors will change. I don't really worry about what any of it means or what metals or stones to use. I just go with my instinct, and it changes every time. I don't have one set way to work with chakras. I'm not always going to pull out a stone, like a jasper stone to work with my throat. I might do it one time and then never again. It might not work again. So everything I do is very instinctual. And we talked about that in the correspondences video I did a little while ago. And I'm talking about it again here because it's just a part of it. It's how I interact with energy. It's different every time. I work off of instinct. So power spots and power places. I believe in those too. And I think that sometimes a power spot can be a vortex. So again, going back to what we said a vortex was, that's a crossing of ley lines on the earth. Sometimes I think that automatically qualifies as a power spot. And sometimes it doesn't. Because to me, a power spot is an area where you feel some kind of connection. Be it spiritually, emotionally, or magically. It's a place where you feel powerful. And it might not be anywhere near a ley line. You know what I mean? Like, it could be the land on which your childhood home was is a power spot to you. And it might not be powerful to anyone else. But you have that power there because you have the history there and the psychological connection to that place. So therefore, that place, that land, is a power spot for you. And then, of course, there are obvious power spots, which some people may argue is a vortex, like areas that draw everyone, like Stonehenge. Is that a power spot? Definitely. Is it a vortex? Is it a crossing of the ley lines of the earth? I don't know. Some people say it is. But again, vortices and power spots and places aren't mutually exclusive. Personally, places that I love, I know that was one of the challenges. I think it might be the current challenge. Um, I really love sewers, as gross as that sounds. I love sewers and I love like drainways. I love going underground. And I like it because it's the underworld of your city, you know? And you can use it as a gateway to travel to like the nether world or the nether realm or the underworld in ritual. Like if you're ever going to work with dark deities or underworld deities or chthonic deities, if you're going to travel to if you're ever going to travel to the underworld to retrieve like for soul retrieval, if you're trying to meet your lower self, whatever it is, I think going into a sewer or a drainway, which is illegal, I think, by the way, um, is awesome. It's perfect. And people always say, well, don't they smell bad? No, not a drainway anyway. A sewer might, but go into a drainway. Those are just tunnels built under, just right below the street usually. They're not really underground. That just take water when it rains and displaces it somewhere else so there's no flooding. So go on a dry day. But I love them. I think they're awesome. I love doing magic down there. If you take a candle, it lights up, the whole tunnel, and you're underground, and there's no sound. And, ooh, it's awesome. I just love it. But I also love bodies of water. Pretty much any body of water, salt or fresh. Doesn't matter how small or big it is. I just love water. Those are places of power for me. Um, and I know a lot of people have said that they like forests on this challenge, like woods. And I think that's a really obvious answer. As pagans and just as human beings, I think we love forests. And that's cool. I like them too. I really do. How can you not? There's something just intrinsically magical about being in a forest because of harkens to all these fantasy movies that we've seen and books and comics and cartoons. We go back to that romanticized medieval period, with like wizards and witches and knights and princesses and spirits, and it's very magical to us, I think, to be in a forest. But I'm really picky about the forests that I like. And that can change. Like I may like a forest for many years, and then suddenly its energy changes, and I'm like, oh, or maybe my energy changed, and I'm like, ooh, I don't like this place anymore. It feels bad to me. A lot of times, like majority of the time, when I go into a forest or a wooded area, someplace where there aren't signs of cultivation, I I feel sticky. Like I feel like things are sticking to me. Like energy is grabbing out at me and just like, ugh, and I don't like it. I don't know what that is. I'd be really curious to hear if you guys have ever experienced sticky feelings in places. I know that that's kind of common, like with areas where trauma has happened. Like if you're in a murder scene, or if you go to a place where you were molested, or like if you um, go to a place where some drama just unfolded, where people have been fighting. Then you might feel sticky or like heavy. But I feel it like in nature, like in forests specifically, and I just think that that's odd, um, because there's supposed to be this like wonderful haven, right, and this magical power spot for bajillions of us. It's kind of like the default power place. Like I need to go to a place of power. Go to the woods. That's just what you do. But my experiences with that have been really mostly on the side. Because again, the energy just always feels oppressive and sticky to me. Um, and so this kind of segues into my next thing, which is sometimes when we're going into places that we know are going to be blah, like in public, if we're going shopping or to work, we may carry things with us to help negate the energy to a degree. We all use kinds of items, even if it's just, it might not even be a physical item. Sometimes it might be a mental tool. But we all use items like amulets, talismans, etc., to negate energy, to change energy, or to amplify energies, right? Um, that's essentially what we're doing with all these tools. We're changing, amplifying, and negating energies that we do and do not want and want to change. Because everything is energy. It's all energy, and we're just Play-Doh. We're Play-Doh, like in a bigger pile of Play-Doh, trying to mold our way around. Everything is energy. And I think when you realize that, like when you actually believe that, and you accept it as a truth, everything becomes a lot cooler to interact with because you realize we're all just vibrating molecules of power. And let me use the energy out of this. Like, it becomes easier, I think, for me when I accept the world as being a giant sphere kind of energy to interact with the world. Um, because I realize we're all the same and we all have energy. And now let me pull out this energy from this object and put it into something else. And when I can visualize things like that, like as liquid or as like Play-Doh or something, as just this moldable energy, magic becomes so much easier to me. Um, but yeah, that's my thoughts on energy, and I do believe in chakras, and vortexes, vortices, and ley lines, and power places. And my absolute favorite power place is a drainway or a sewer, underground, a cave. Uh, I love all that. I love energy. I love talking about energy. I love theorizing about energy and how energy works. Energy's awesome, and the way we interact with it is different for each of us. You have to find the way that you interact with energy. For me, it's a lot through visualization, but it's also through clairsentience, which is psychic touch or psychic knowing sometimes. But some people interact with energy, with the world, through clairvoyance or clairaudience or clairgustus or whatever the taste one is. I can't remember. um, but yeah, we all are just energy, walking around in energy, interacting with energy. Sometimes the energy overwhelms us. Sometimes we overwhelm the people around us, the energy around us. It's all energy, and you have to find the way that you best sculpt energy. That's it. Energy, yay! Namaste, ashe, and peace out, Girl Scouts.